His body is still on that island, and the government said, leave it. That is where this video ends. But before we get there, I need to show you what your own government has been doing on the other 4 islands in this list. Quietly. Legally. For decades, a woman imprisoned for 26 years without a single trial, 50,000 barrels of nuclear waste dropped into the ocean 30 miles from a major American city, 1 million people buried on an island 1 mile from shore and their families turned away at the water's edge for decades, and a research lab designed by a man who used to report directly to Heinrich Himmler. None of this is a theory. Every word of it is in the public record. Welcome to Prime Roof. I am your host. And this channel exists for one reason only, to take you inside the places most people are never supposed to find. Today, 5 American islands you cannot visit, and by the time we get to number 1, you are going to understand exactly why that man walked toward that shore, and why no government on earth could stop what happened next. Let us go. Number 5. North Brother Island. New York City, you can see it from the Bronx. Stand on the right stretch of shoreline and it is right there. Across the water. Close enough to shout it, but you cannot go, and once you hear what this island did to one woman, you might not want to. March 1907. 5 in the morning, 5 police officers and a city health inspector knock on a door on Park Avenue in Manhattan. They are looking for a cook named Mary Mallon. Mary sees them coming. She runs, she hides in a neighbor's outdoor closet behind a stack of ash cans for 5 hours. When they finally drag her out, she fights. Scratching. Screaming. The health inspector later wrote that she fought like a caged animal. They put her in an ambulance, drove her to the East River, and put her on a boat to North Brother Island. Now here is what you need to understand about Mary Mallon. She had never broken a single law. She had never been charged with a crime. She had never stood in front of a judge. She was an Irish immigrant who worked as a cook in the homes of wealthy New York families. And between 1900 and 1907, typhoid fever broke out in 7 of the 8 households where she worked. People got sick. 3 people died, but Mary? Mary never felt a single symptom. She was the first documented asymptomatic carrier of typhoid fever in American history. A person who spreads a deadly disease while feeling perfectly healthy, the city decided that made her dangerous, so they took her, without a trial. Without a conviction. Without ever passing a law that said they could do this, they put her in a cottage on North Brother Island and they left her there. For 3 years she fought from the island, writing letters, filing lawsuits. She was finally released in 1910 on the condition that she never work as a cook again. She went back to cooking under a false name. They caught her again in 1915, and this time, they sent her back to North Brother Island permanently. She died there in 1938, after 26 years, alone on that island. Still insisting she had done nothing wrong. And here is the part that history quietly buried. Other asymptomatic typhoid carriers were identified around. When they came back the following morning, they saw the sentinelese dragging his body across the beach. His body was never recovered. The Indian government made several attempts to retrieve it. Each time, the risk of a violent confrontation with the sentinelese and the danger of spreading disease to them made it impossible to continue. A murder case was opened against unknown persons. No charges were filed against the sentinelese. John Chow's own family declined to press charges. His remains are on that island today. And here is the thing I want you to sit with as this video ends. Every island in this video was closed because someone with power decided to close it. A city government decided Mary Mallon was too inconvenient to leave free and imprisoned her for 26 years without trial. A federal government decided the Pacific Ocean was an acceptable place to dump 50,000 barrels of nuclear waste and then told you it was a wildlife refuge. A city buried 1 million of its poorest residents in a mass grave 1 mile from shore and told their families they could not visit. A government brought a Nazi bio-warfare scientist to a secret island lab off the American coast and sold that island without ever fully explaining what happened inside it. In every case, someone in power made a decision. And someone with no power paid the price. North Sentinel Island is the only island on this list where the people living there made that decision themselves. No government authorized it. No agency approved it. No law required it. A people who have survived for 60,000 years simply looked at the world approaching their shore and said no. Now here is the part that I cannot get out of my head. For decades, families of people buried on Hart Island were not allowed to visit the graves. Think about what that actually means. You lose your child. Or your parent. The city buries them on an island 1 mile from shore, an island you can see from where you are standing. And then the city tells you, you cannot cross that water. You cannot stand at that grave. You cannot say goodbye. For decades, family members stood on the Bronx shoreline, looking across the water at the island where their loved ones were buried. Unable to reach them, legal battles were fought for years. Activists pushed for access for decades. Things have slowly, painfully, begun to change. Today, limited supervised visits are permitted for family members, but Hart Island is still not open to the public. 1 million people on that island, and most of the 8 million people living in New York City have never heard of it. 1 mile away, 2 islands left. I have not forgotten the promise I made you at the beginning. But number 2 needs its own moment, because what happened there was not a mistake. It was not an accident. It was a decision. Made deliberately. By people who knew exactly what they were building, and the island has been locked ever since. Number 2. Plum Island. New York, less than 2 miles from the Connecticut shoreline. In 1954, the United States Department of Agriculture established a research facility on Plum Island called the Plum Island Animal Disease Center. The stated mission: to study dangerous animal diseases that could threaten American livestock. Foot and mouth disease. Deadly pathogens. The kind of biological agents that, if they reached the mainland, could devastate the American food supply. Official. Controlled. Behind a wall of water, no public access. No press. No independent oversight. And here is what the historical record shows about who helped build it. The man whose work laid the groundwork for Plum Island's research program was a German scientist named Erich Traub. During World War II, Traub worked as lab chief on Insel Reims, a secret Nazi biological warfare laboratory on an island in the Baltic Sea. He worked directly under SS Reichsfuhrer Heinrich Himmler. His mission was to develop biological weapons, including weaponizing foot and mouth disease to be deployed against Soviet livestock. After the war, Traub was brought to the United States under Operation Paperclip, the classified government program that recruited German scientists to work for America instead of the Soviet Union. He met with scientists at Fort Detrick, the Army's biological warfare headquarters. He gave them a detailed explanation of everything that had been done at his Nazi island lab. That information, according to documented sources, laid the groundwork for what became Plum Island. Workers on the island in the 1950s later recalled seeing ticks being inoculated outdoors on the island. They called the scientist they saw doing it the Nazi scientist. Plum Island has been inaccessible to the public since the day it opened. In 2013, the government announced it would sell it to a private buyer, not clean it, not open it, sell it. The process moved forward. The island changed hands. And to this day, the full history of what was researched on Plum Island has never been completely disclosed. The gate is still closed. And now, number 1, I told you at the beginning, his body is still on that island. And the government said, leave it. This is that story. Number 1. North Sentinel Island. Andaman Sea. It is roughly the size of Manhattan. It sits in the Indian Ocean, technically under Indian administration, but in every real sense, belonging to no government that has ever existed. This is ours. We were here first, and we are staying. 60,000 years of evidence says they know exactly what they are doing. 5 islands, 5 gates that will not open, some closed to hide what the government left behind. Some closed to hide what the government did to real people. And one closed by the only people on this list who were never asked for permission in the first place. Which one stayed with you? Tell me in the comments. Every single one. I read them all. Next week on Prime Roof, we go underground. There are cities built beneath American soil that most people have never heard of. Designed in secret. Abandoned without explanation, and some of them are still in use today. What they are being used for, that is what we are going to find out. I will see you there.